All right, this is a new thing for you.
Yeah.
This experience. Talk about it.
Well, you know, first of all, New Orleans is one of my favorite cities, even before I came to Louisiana. But the passion of these two fan bases and the party they want to have here is pretty incredible.
Absolutely. Of course, when it comes to class, he's the granddaddy of them all. And walk through the last year has been for you leading the university, and then now, of course, culminating end of the year with this.
So I took on the role as president of the system and chancellor of the campus in July. So it hasn't even been a year.
There you go.
Okay. So the first few months is just learning and walking around, meeting people, figuring out the stuff that's important to learn and connecting with the culture of the institution. And then, you know, over the next few months, trying to put a plan together that moves the institution forward.
And on that particular point, I mean, what we are seeing is we're seeing a lot of attention, a lot of focus, obviously, on HBCUs from philanthropic organizations, from corporate organizations as well. But what is your message to Southern about how they have to be operating moving forward? Because there are a lot of places that say, hey, this is the Southern way, this is the Grambling way, but there's also a new way to operate towards moving in the future.
Well, you have to be realistic. I mean, you can't throw off the culture and act like it's irrelevant.
Right.
At the same time, I'm going to sort of say, what are the challenges that are in front of us? A lot of it's revenue streams.
Yep.
Okay? And so we have to be attentive to diversifying our revenue stream. Now, the good news, as you've mentioned, is that we're at an inflection point where there probably hasn't been as much interest at the federal level and in business and industry in supporting HBCUs. So we got to get in front of them and execute. I mean, we just had a board meeting this morning, and I think we announced almost $3.5 million worth of gifts to the various campuses in our system. We need to double that annually. So that's the challenge. And we shouldn't think about it as being contrary to our culture.
Right.
I mean, if you look around, one of the reasons why this is going on is that the alumni of these HBCUs from the last 30 years have been tremendously successful, and they're in key positions in government and in business and industry, and they're waiting for us to call on them.
Right. In fact, I was talking to a brother the other day who's a significant person in media, and he said, I graduated from HBCU. He said, and they haven't approached me. And he was like, I'm not understanding why they haven't.
And that's the challenge. So my role is to do that. But everybody down 2 or 3 levels into the organization has to understand that's part of their role. You can't be the dean of a college and just think, I'm going to deal with what's on in the college. Right. Because if you're the dean of business, you know, all these companies want access to this talent and want to support. So you got to be outwardly facing to engage them.
Right. But what is what's the one thing that you were most surprised taking over? That stood out.
Well, the one thing that's most surprising, I'm not going to talk about. That just get me into trouble. All right. I would say, you know, I've been in higher education for 40 years, and I've worked at places like Duke and Michigan, and I'm an Iowa guy, so I'm the University of Iowa. The passion that the folks have for their institutions, these HBCUs, is like on steroids as opposed to those places. And I think I kind of expected that, but until you sort of are immersed in it, you don't realize what that's like. So that's probably been the biggest surprise.
One of the things that conversations that I've had with a lot of different people is that when they talk about how do you now redefine and change the focus. Oftentimes when you see these stories being done, when you see the focus being done, in terms of in really mainstream media, so much of the attention is on bands, is on Greek life, and others say, well, you know, that's not solely what the universities are all about. And so part of it also is, when you talk about establishing what the brand is saying it goes beyond just those two facets. Those are important, but that's not what the institution is solely made of.
So what's the institution? What should we about? Well, for me, it's the outcomes for students. Every student that comes in the door has a reason to expect that they'll be well educated and complete their degree. So that's number one. That student experience, I think is central to the HBCU mission, right? Number two, we have to be stewards of place. Where our institutions are located, we can't act like what's going on around us is not relevant to what we do. So we have to find ways to help the towns, neighborhoods, cities, states where we're located thrive and find ways to do that. And it won't be the same for every institution, but that's critical. The third thing is we have stakeholders, and we have to be attentive to them because particularly as public institutions, we've always thought it was the state's obligation. Well, for better or worse, that support is not where it was at one time. And in the case of public HBCUs, it's lagged what it should have been for decades.
From the beginning.
So we can sit there and worry about that, or we can say, hey, there are other places that we can go to sustain ourselves. It's like any good business. You don't depend on your support to come from one stream, because if that stream goes away,
that's it.
You're lost. So we have to expand that.
Yep.
So that's part of what we have to do.
All right. Well, look, certainly good luck.
Okay.
And I appreciate it. And I look forward to your first Bayou Classic.
Okay.
All right. Thanks so much. I appreciate it.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Yep.
The new GMC Sierra, premium and capable. That's professional grade.